Hello friends. For today's video, I wanted to go through my January TBR. I did say in a recent video that I was unsure whether I wanted to do TBRs this year, as I have found TBRs to be somewhat restricting, and if you want to mood read, they don't really allow for that. If you pick up a first book in a series and you love it and you just want to devour the rest of the series, sometimes you have to put it on hold, and as a result, I have wound up, like a lot of us, I think, being in the middle of so many series, and I really want to course correct this year when it comes to the amount of series that I have started. But on the flip side, if you are like me and you like to use your library, there is a certain amount of planning that has to go into trying to time when all your holds are going to come in, seeing what's available now, what's not available now, what just came in. And because of that, I do feel like I should be looking ahead a little bit just to ensure that when I am in the mood to read something, I actually have it available to me. And then on top of all of that, this particular year, I don't have the Cosmere read-along going on, so that will open up my reading schedule. I don't have the Shades read-along going on. And I finished writing my second book. I talked about that in the announcement video if you didn't see and you care. But as a result, my reading will have a little bit more time. And one thing that I wanted to prioritize this year was feeling like I get to actually connect with all of you a little bit more. Obviously, after everything that happened in 2020 and kind of the upward trajectory of mental health and my emotional well-being, I really feel like I'm in a good place and I'm no longer kind of hiding in my hole, if you will. And I just want to have that connection a little bit more, that sense of community. So here on the channel, on my community tab, be on the lookout because periodically, I've already been doing this, but I'm going to be asking your thoughts on things a lot of times, and that way I can do a little bit more conversational discussion types of videos. But then over on Patreon, as kind of a thank you to patrons and everybody who's supported me over the years, I really wanted to try to prioritize some of their favorite books. So I'll have a post over on Patreon asking what your favorite books of 2023 were. And then I'm going to take those, write them on pieces of paper, and put them in a jar or a mug. And each month I will draw something from there, and then I will try to either check it out from my library, or if I already have a copy, then prioritize it and pick it up as soon as possible. And I think this will be a really fun way to branch out a little bit and get to connect with all of you through reading as well. So, all of that said, because this month I'm filming pretty early, I won't be doing that just yet because I want to give everybody a chance to, when I post that, to see that post and be able to leave their favorites. But my patrons are buddy reading the book Starling House, so I'm going to be picking this up in January. They do buddy read for standalones over there, so I'm going to, this one is one I had, and I'm going to jump in and try to pick this one up in January. I actually was sent this by the publisher unprompted. It just arrived one day and I was thinking, what is this? And I saw it, I was like, oh, okay, cool, I guess. So I'm excited because I have wanted to read works by this author for a really long time. And I've not yet read anything by them, but I've always wanted to. So this seems like a perfect opportunity. I am very in the dark as to what it's about, what the plot is, what subgenre it fits into. I don't know anything, and I kind of want to keep it that way. So Starling House is going to be one of the highest priority books for January. After that, we have The Will of the Many. This is one that has very quickly turned into a BookTube darling. It was on the Goodreads Choice Awards nominees. The average rating is staggeringly high. I don't know a whole lot about the book at this time, and similar to Starling House, I don't want to know a whole lot about it. I state this pretty often, but if you don't know, as much as possible, I find it's important for me to relay my thoughts on things as purely as possible. By pure, I mean not having outside influences kind of contributing, because I think a lot of us can fall into having our thoughts tweaked before we've even gone into something. I think a lot of us have felt that with things that are really, really hyped, and then we either think there's no way it's going to meet the hype, so we go in with unrealistic expectations that are either negative, or we expect it to meet the hype, and then it can't. And so I just don't like for my thoughts to be influenced before I've had a chance to discuss, and then it's not that I want them to be influenced after. I just mean after that, then I feel like I can actually converse with friends, but in the meantime, I kind of try to avoid seeing anything. However, I have not been able to help seeing that everybody seems to be loving it. So we'll see. Even my brother-in-law was like, hey, has she read, he doesn't sound like that. I don't know why I'm making him sound like that. Sean's brother, my husband, he had asked like, hey, has she read it yet? And he was like, I don't think so, but I think she requested it from the library, so soon, and thus soon I will be picking up The Will of the Many. After that, I'm just going to hold up Divine Rivals, but the sequel to Divine Rivals Ruthless Vows comes out at the very end of December, and I will not be home at the very end of December. I am dog sitting for my mom so she can go visit my nieces because she's never been able to see her grandkids on Christmas. So I told my mom, like, don't worry, Mom, just like go see them and I'll watch Dutton, her dog, who's very sweet, but also a menace. So I'm going to be all by myself for quite a while around Christmas. And Luna sadly doesn't really get along with Dutton, is my mom's dog's name. So I have to be there and Sean has to be with Luna. All this to say, I'm not going to be at my house on the day that Ruthless Vows comes out. I might not even be there when it arrives. So it will probably be January that I read this book, which is I don't even want to wait those 5 days. I don't even want to wait, but alas, I kind of have to because it would be really dumb for me to drive all the way back to my house because my mom and my house, our houses are not that close. It'd be really stupid to drive all the way back to my house and then there just so I could pick up a book when there's plenty of other things I have to read. However, all that to say, I love Divine Rivals, one of my favorite books I read in 2023. It really took me aback. I couldn't believe how much I fell in love with it, so I'm very nervously excited for the next one. After that, we have the conclusion to a series, and that would be Defiant by Brandon Sanderson. Every time I mention or Brandon Sanderson comes up, my husband's always like, oh yeah, that like little indie author, like not very well known. But Brandon Sanderson, obviously we know who he is. And I have been excited about this one. I had the one other portion of the collection of novellas that I need to read, and then I can jump into this. So both of them are on my January TBR. I'm a little nervous because it's the end of a series, and I think end of series are always a little nerve-wracking because you really want it to stick the landing. Sanderson tends to, well, I was going to say he tends to stick the landing, but there's not too many things. I mean, we have Mistborn Era 1 and Era 2 that we've gotten completed, but we're still waiting on Stormlight 5, and Warbreaker's a standalone currently, and Elantris is a standalone currently, so there's not too many series endings, but I did love the end of First Era Mistborn, so I think it'll likely be one that I really enjoy, but we'll see. These, thus far, if it's not clear, are all books that are newer from 2023. I will go through some books that are backlist or things like that, other genres, in a second, but I wanted to talk about the newer things first, and that includes System Collapse by Martha Wells. So if I can get my hands on the audiobook or a physical copy, I'll try to bring that to my mom's while I'm dog sitting, and then just devour whatever I need to in order to finish this series. I'm very excited. After that, I don't know which of these I'm going to pick up, but they're all potential options. So we have The Unmaking of June Farrow, we have Clytemnestra, and then The Future. So it's probably pretty obvious that these were on the Goodreads nominees, and also a couple of them were on, well, The Future for sure was on one of my anticipated releases because I thought it sounded interesting. It's just going to come down to what I'm in the mood for. I think The Future is the one I'm leaning toward right now, because I think it's more sci-fi leaning. It seemed a little out there. And also Book of the Month now has this audiobook subscription portion as well. It's not separate. You can use your credits for an audiobook. And so I think now that I have a physical copy, I might use a credit to get the audiobook also, and then I can do some immersion reading. So one of these three is likely going to be something I pick up. So that's it for the newer releases. Now getting into some that are other genres or backlists. So a different genre, we have How to Sell a Haunted House. I saw my friend Jessie May talking about this book, and she really liked it, and she mentioned something about puppets, and the reason that sparked my curiosity is because I recently played and loved and devoured the video game Lies of P. And over on my side channel, Full Meta Analysis, if you are like me and you loved that game and you're like, what can I check out after this besides Bloodborne, because that's the thing everybody says, then I did a video of, if you like this, try that. And I thought about trying to pick this up before doing that because I'm like, well, there's puppets. I wonder if there's anything else, there's any other overlap. And I'm like, just make that video, and then if there is, maybe you can mention it later. But regardless, I thought it sounded interesting from the way Jesse was describing it. I don't pick up a whole lot of horror, and I am quite pathetic when it comes to scary things. So we'll see how I do with this one. I've heard that Grady Hendrix is also pretty funny, and they're entertaining, and they're not always really, really scary or anything like that. So we'll see. I don't know how I'm going to feel about that one, but I am excited to give it a go. I'm also kind of nervous though, because I'm like, well, if I end up picking it up before January and I pick it up as one of the books I bring to my mom's when I'm dog sitting, I'm like, if I'm all by myself, do I really want to read that? Hopefully it's not too scary. You can let me know if it's not too scary. After that, we have a nonfiction book. I don't have it with me at the moment, but I'm just going to hold up the book Evicted, as it's written by the same author, Matthew Desmond. And the book is called Poverty by America. I don't know a whole lot about it. I just know that this is one of the best nonfiction books I have ever read. And Poverty by America was something I was really looking forward to coming out. And I've wanted to get around to it all year. It's just other things kind of took precedence. So I really want to pick that one up. I would like to pick up more nonfiction this year in general, because there's just a lot of things in the world that I would like to be better educated on, or that just other people's experiences that I'd like to read about. And I figure if I try to at least get around to one nonfiction book each month, that would be a good goal to help me get to reading more nonfiction. After that, we have The Last Love Note. This is one where I got this in my book of the month, because I do actually have a subscription, and I've worked with them from time to time. So I got this, and then rather than using a credit to get the audiobook through them, if you don't know, the subscription service Libro FM, which is an audiobook subscription service, and the money goes toward bookstores, indie bookstores, local bookstores, those sorts of things, which I think is awesome. It's a great alternative if you are looking for that for your audiobook service. But they have an influencer program, and the idea is if you are a reviewer and you talk about books in some fashion, you can sign up for their influencer program, and then every single month they have a lot of books available for free, the audiobooks available for free, and this was one of them. So I was like, hey, how serendipitous. Let's give it a go. So I think I'm going to try to get around to that one. From there, we have Addie LaRue. This was on my TBR just sometime for 2023, and I did not end up picking it up, and I really want to. I felt fine about the fact that I hadn't picked it up because of the fact that so many facts, because I reread Shades and then picked up the new Fragile Threads of Power, so I'm like, hey, it's been pretty V.E. Schwab heavy year. I don't feel too bad about not getting around to this one, but I have wanted to read it for so long. I feel like a lot of the hype has kind of dissipated, and I can go in, as I stated at the beginning, with more realistic expectations rather than having everybody's thoughts echoing in my head. From there, we have not The Maid. I'm once again just holding up a different book by this author, but The Mystery Guest. So I read The Maid around this time last year, and it was just a nice, cozy mystery between a lot of the other stuff that I was in the middle of. And I'm hoping that this other book will be the same. I don't know the premise. I don't know if people from this one pop up in that, if it's completely separate. I don't know, but I figured a cozy mystery could be kind of fun. Now, the last thing I want to say, because I'm sure some of you are like, hey, did you get around to these yet? Because I'm filming this early in December, I am planning on these books being read before the end of the year. But just in case they're not, or if you didn't know that I was hoping to get around to them, I figured I'd mention them here. So Discworld, Gideon the Ninth, obviously Discworld is a huge amount. So a Discworld book or multiple, Gideon the Ninth, and then some of the Age of Madness, the first one being A Little Hatred. I do want to read all three of those before the end of the year. But as I just said, if I don't, then I will have them on my January TBR. So that's it for some books that I'm hoping to get around to, kind of in combination with the rest of this month, December, and some of January. And I would love to know, what are your thoughts on these books without going into too much detail? So thoughts like, is the How to Sell a Haunted House really scary or not really? Am I going to be okay reading it by myself? And Addie LaRue, hyped, overhyped? What are your thoughts on that? Anyway, I'm very excited for so many of these books. It was actually really hard to decide what my TBR was going to be, because there's just so many things that I wanted to read. But thanks so much for watching. Any videos or anything that I mentioned, I'll have linked in the description bar. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Bye.